Welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host, Ed Charbeneau, and with me, as always, is my co-host, John Bristowe. How you doing, John?
Hi. Good. Hope everyone's had a great holiday break and looking forward to the new year and all the good things that go along with that.
So this is our news show. We're going to talk about news today, as we do on every Eat Sleep Code. Of course, we offer our take on things. That's what makes it hopefully interesting. This first one, I had to bring it up because it's been such a big part of our tech lives for so long. Even though it didn't touch me personally, I know so many people that have had Blackberries.
Yes.
And I guess today was the end of days for the BlackBerry servers. So if you had one of these beautiful devices with the keyboard, the full-on keyboard, how long has it been since they've sold? Like, I know they have an Android-based one, but these specifically are the BlackBerry OS-based systems. How long
Yes.
has it been since they've sold these and people still have
I think
them?
the last device I personally saw in someone's hands was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, this is saying like 2008.
Mm.
So, I mean, it seems long overdue that these things get yanked offline, but apparently the server that supports this operating system is finally going end of life. So if you're a BlackBerry user, I'm sorry, it's time to upgrade.
Yeah. So
Maybe you can
these
get a Windows
devices
phone. I heard
I
those are
know.
cheap these days.
For a lot of people who don't know why this is a thing, the way that Blackberries worked was they actually coordinated with a backend server, and the reason why that's relevant is because you needed to have a backend server to have things work. Basically, you couldn't operate a BlackBerry as a solo unit device. You could, I mean, with the later versions, but typically there was a bridging uh, facility that Blackberries enabled, what's called a BES, or I think it's called BlackBerry Enterprise Server. I'm totally reaching back into the neurons here. But basically, these BES devices were there for basically coordinating with BlackBerry devices. And the fact that they're now being switched off means that these BlackBerry devices basically become bricked because they need to work in conjunction with these servers to work.
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron's probably right here. It's like probably some government employees were the last users. I wouldn't doubt it. It seems like they're always on the oldest possible thing you can imagine.
Sure. Yep.
But yeah, so BlackBerry's BlackBerry's still a business, and they still sell phones apparently, but they're Android phones. Kind of
yes,
the Windows model of things. They ditched Windows Phone, went with just the Surface Phone type of thing, which they said they never do. Anyway, speaking of Surface, see how I did that? It's 2022. I'm already getting the segues down perfectly. Yes. Yeah. Speaking of Surface, this is, I don't know why they call it the Microsoft Surface Adaptive Kit, because this is really a non device specific little kit that I think is really cool, and I thought I'd share. So this is a kit you can order from the Microsoft Store for $15, and basically it is a raised set of stickers that you can put on any device. So they give a tactile surface to any device. So users with visual needs can operate devices without directly seeing certain icons and things. You've got that glass surface, so you can actually stick these X's where close buttons may be, and other buttons here, like a minus button, or maybe a volume button might, on-screen volume button might be. So it gives you something you can actually reach over and touch.
Will these
there's
work
a bunch
with
of these little keycaps and things too.
Will these work with touch devices though? I don't think they will.
From what I understand, I mean, you don't necessarily touch the icon, the sticker itself, but you can put it above or near the thing that you're supposed to touch.
Oh, I see.
And then you can create raised function, raised keys, raised functionality to keys. You could put them on devices that aren't surfaces. So, you could see here, this one's symbolizing a USB port is here, and I've got an audio jack, and then there's some kind of touch sensor up top. So maybe turn the device on and off. There's also these tabs to help users that might need to like open a panel on the device.
Right.
You can't get your fingernail underneath this thing to flip it open, so you add this tab to it, and then you can grab it with either your hand or maybe a gripping device that you might use or something like that. It's all meant with accessibility in mind, to add accessibility to things that don't necessarily have it. And I thought this was super cool for $15. I mean, you can go put this on devices in your office or other spaces that people might need to have access to these things. I also thought, outside the box a little bit, this might be a cool thing to keep in our conference kits when in-person conferences are back in full swing. Have some of these in our at our booth, so we can put them around, things that we have at our booth that users need to interact with, in case there's folks at the conference that can't interact like other people.
Right.
Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, again, you grab those on the Windows Store, the Microsoft Store, whatever you want to call it. The Microsoft Store, I think, is the right terminology there. $15, just a pack of stickers, but it's pretty neat.
Also, that would be probably $80,000 in Australia, but whatever.
Just for the shipping, eh?
I know.
Or just for the internet to view it.
Yes.
The internet's pretty pricey there as well. What are we looking at here, John? This is one of your links, Dura.
So Dura is basically, well, to describe what it is, it's basically a background process, and all it does is basically it's just watching your Git repositories, and then based on the work that you're doing, it will go ahead and commit any of the changes you're making to those repositories that are uncommitted to those Git repositories without impacting head or the current branch or the Git index. And so basically it's trying to get around that scenario where you've got a lot of code living on your machine, and you don't know what the state, well, maybe sometimes machines can, you maybe you go away on Christmas break and you have all this code sitting on your machine, then you're for whatever reason your machine becomes corrupt, or there's you've made a mistake, you want to Control Z all the way back. This is something that provides a backing mechanism that's automated. So Dura is this facility that just runs in the background and basically syncs up to a Git repository. So it basically provides a syncing mechanism to Git without making it a true commit. It's just basically doing it to a temporary location.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. When you first started talking about it, I thought this sounded dangerous, but now I realize it's
just writes it to a
separate branch or whatever it is.
Correct.
This is pretty cool. It kind of sounds like an autosave feature that's just kind of backing itself.
Yes, autosave for Git is another way you could possibly think of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't commit to a location that
kind of happened to me the other day. So I was working on a Word document, or not Word, a Markdown document, and I accidentally pasted into the Markdown document, and it uses Markdown Monster, which is really great. It has this autosave feature, which has saved me a million times, but I accidentally pasted into this document. You can see that it's about this one here is about 45 lines. It takes me about a day to write what I'm doing here. I'm not going to explain in detail exactly what it is, but I copied and pasted like a single line over the top of the entire document by accident, and it auto-saved, and I thought it was gone. And thankfully, if you right-click on a document and go into OneDrive, you can see your version history.
Yes.
And you can actually go in here and undo that autosave. So you can see all these little menus here. You can say restore or download. And I ended up restoring that file, and it saved me probably about 3 hours of work that I would have missed. So that type of thing is awesome. I love when there's little backup systems in place to save you from losing work.
Now, a natural question that people might have is, why not just run your Git repositories in a OneDrive, Dropbox, Google Drive backed folder? And that's a reasonable question to ask. The problem is that it can cause a lot of problems. So people don't do that because it will cause a lot of problems with changes, change management, etc. And so that's why people need something like this.
More importantly, it will wreak havoc on your computer. So if you look here, there's this little icon. It's probably kind of hard to see on stream, but at the bottom, there's a little icon that says OneDrive is up to date. And if you're running especially like a JavaScript application, like a web app or something, and you're doing like npm install, and you put that npm node modules folder into OneDrive, it then is going to start syncing like a bazillion little like 10K files up to the cloud. And you will notice your CPU and your hard drive come to a complete halt as it does this. So, I know this from experience, by the way. I did it by accident once. I restored a repository, I think, to a folder that was backed up by OneDrive, and then did an npm install, and then watched my CPU just grind to a complete halt. I had to Control-Delete out of that situation. It was not pretty. So yeah, do something like this with Dura, and not use your OneDrive account to do the same thing. This looks pretty cool, John. Vanta.js, an animated website background.
I stumbled across this. I think it was on Hacker News mentioned there. Basically, it's a JavaScript library for providing animated backgrounds. There's a variety of examples there. I don't know. I'm not a design guy, so if this is something up your alley, this is something that's available, and just basically dumps a bunch of stuff into a background target. So there you go.
Yeah, this is pretty neat. I could see uses for this. I know GitHub itself has an animated background. Which is pretty nice. So this gives you kind of an open sourcey way to do this on your website. There's some pretty nice ones in here too. It's kind of flashy. It's nice for a homepage, maybe. I would use it with some caution though. And there's a couple of those down here, by the way. We'll read through those in a second. But one of the big ones is, again, accessibility. Keep that in mind. These type of animations can cause some people to not only have motion sickness. I know that sounds crazy with it being so, small of an animation. It's not like you're putting a VR headset on or something, but even this can cause some people to become uneasy. But things like this can trigger people with vestibular disorders, if I said that correctly, where moving things on a screen like this will basically cause vertigo. So you want to have a way to turn that off in case those folks visit your site. And there are ways through CSS to detect that setting on their system. Won't go into the details on it. Just look it up. You can find it. But it says also here, what's the catch? It says some WebGL effects are slower on old computers. So this does use WebGL. This might be kind of, if you're rocking a BlackBerry, see what I did there? If you're rocking a BlackBerry device and you open this web page up, you're going to have issues. And I love this. It just says, don't use more than one or two in a single page. It doesn't say why. It just says don't. Like don't feed it after midnight and don't get it wet. But it doesn't tell you what exactly it does.
A nice Gremlins reference there.
I'm full of them today.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like crossing the streams here. You don't want to put two of them on the same page, because
here we go.
What is going to happen if you do that? And then again, mobile devices. We said that already. Set a background image color as a fallback. That's always handy if you have large images of any kind.
Right.
Is to at least set a plain background image. So, yeah, I'm on a roll today, but usually, it's kind of par for the course. But accidentally put repos in OneDrive directory, and PC almost caught fire. Sounds about right.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of webifying things in CSS, what is CSS Fingerprint, John?
So fingerprinting is a technique to try and circumvent privacy filtering in browsers. Fingerprinting is a technique used by various tracking companies to basically uniquely identify you, and that
Mhm.
way they can start, doing targeted ads, etc. And this is a website at csstracking.dev that articulates how to do this via CSS. So it's a new vector basically
Mm.
for companies to protect against. And yeah, just a little technique there. It is a bit of a convoluted sort of thing. It is pretty heavyweight at the moment. So I think you need about a meg of data to do this. But with new changes coming down in CSS level 4, the spec, I believe that this will get a lot easier. So anyways, I thought this was interesting and wanted to cite it here just for folks to take a look at.
Yeah, so this gives them a way to people, bad actors, a way of tracking your web
Well,
behavior
I don't know if they're
without
bad actors.
JavaScript.
Not
Yeah,
necessarily bad actors, but
if they're trying this hard to track your stuff, usually it's not. It's not that
maybe
they're necessarily like after your bank account, but it's they're circumventing cookies, protections, and things that are in
they're
place
they're
by
not being
browser
they're
companies.
not playing nicely. They're taking their ball and going
Yeah.
home, so to speak. So
Yeah, I actually had this happen at another employer that I was with at one point, and they were like, "Can't we get people's email addresses without them submitting it?" I'm like, "Maybe it's possible we're not going to, though." It's like,
yeah,
who asks these questions? People in marketing will ask these questions,
yep, that's
and
okay.
there's always an answer. I mean, there's always a way to do these type of things. It's should you implement them? No. So yeah, it's interesting. And as we dig into the more ranty of things, John, I saw this come up over the holidays.
Yep,
This log4j. Looks like it's a
yeah,
Java thing, so I'm not too in tune with what's going on here. What happened? What was this all
yeah.
about?
So this actually hit a whole bunch of folks in December, and I thought I wanted to mention it here. So Log4j is a very popular logging framework. It's probably one of the most popular in Java. And it's actually been used as the basis for another logging framework, which is in .NET called Log4 Net, I believe. And
Mhm.
so Log4j or Log4j2 is the new version of this logging framework. There was a few exploits that were discovered over the course of a few weeks in December, where people were able to. Well, the first one, which was the most dangerous, was the fact that they discovered remote execution, a remote execution exploit. So you could inject a certain string that, if crafted correctly, could give you the ability to execute commands via remote on a target machine, and that's never a good thing.
That
So
doesn't sound like a good thing.
no, it's really really bad. So they patched that, and then subsequently they found additional issues, and they have patched that, and they patched it again. So there's been about 4 or so patches that have been issued by the Log4j team. And the
Mhm.
reason why this is so important is because Log4j is used everywhere. Like it's used across governments, it's used across major corporations. Companies like Apple use this, companies like Amazon use this, there's like it just is very very widespread. And
Mhm.
so this actually, when it first hit, was like, wow, this is really bad. And the nuance for this is basically like it really depends on how the attacker is trying to craft queries, but um, the queries themselves, they may look on the surface kind of weird, but at the end of the day, they are there to try and compromise or pwn a target machine. And this is all because there's a facility in Genie, which is this protocol used Java native interface that's used for doing certain lookups. And there was a directory interface for this specifically, which is done for these types of calls. And if you crafted those calls in such a way, you would see these sort of remote calls being conducted on target machine. Incidentally, this became popularized in Minecraft, because Minecraft actually uses Log4j, and you
Oh
were
wow.
seeing these videos on YouTube where kids were like launching like calculator on other people's machines without them realizing, hey, how did this launch, sort of thing. And so they were crafting these messages, because the messages that people would set in the Minecraft chat window would have these exploit strings. And so you saw these videos on YouTube where kids were basically trying to launch, like, calculator.exe on other people's machines. The problem that people quickly discovered was that, hey, this can also be executed on infrastructure, so important infrastructure. And so that's where this all kind of came to a head. So where we stand now is there's been about 4 or so patches that have been issued. The good news is that probably by the end of this library will be rock solid. A lot of people reasonably ask the question, like, why does this capability even exist? Why do we have the ability to do a remote execution call? And so they've disabled that capability. But this feature's been in there for a while. So there were good reasons for that back in the day, but those days now have been, long gone, and people have now used this as an attack vector. So anyways, I just wanted to mention this to anyone who's watching, who's using Log4j. Patch your systems, get them updated, let your customers know that they're updated, get updates out, etc.
I mean, if I was playing Minecraft and my calculator just popped up on my screen, I'd be thinking, something about this just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Nobody? Come on.
I won't say anything.
All right.
Perfect.
Anyway, yeah. Hey, you willingly came here to watch this. That's all I've got to say.
Yes. Talking to you're listening to a couple of morons talk about puns and .NET and Java and all kinds of things. So, it's on you.
Voluntarily.
It doesn't add. So one person said, I don't get it. So launching calculator.exe, it doesn't add up. All right, there you go. All right. Yeah. Let's move on.
All right. So, this got into kind of a rant about migrating .NET, an old .NET app or set of them, to the latest version of .NET. And there's always good things to take away from a good old-fashioned rant like this. It is kind of a ranty type post. I'm not like slamming it. It is kind of somebody venting about their terrible experience, but they are outlining things that you need to know to migrate. I will preface this by saying they do have quite a mystery meat, it sounds like, of .NET versions they were using. So as you dig through this, you'll see that they were using things like classic ASP and old school web forms and lots of things that they needed to migrate. They're using WCF heavily, and these legacy applications that you build over years and years of time, when you get ready to update them to .NET 6, there's a lot of gotchas, a lot of landmines and things that can be in here. So he went through and outlined kind of like the worst of all the things. And there's things that aren't documented well. I may actually pass this along to the .NET team so they can read through it and see if there's anything they could do to make the docs easier for this. And we're also working at progress on some webinars to help people with migration strategies. So this may actually come in handy for that. But I mean, there's everything in there from, web config, things that you need to migrate, data annotations that change, to the way you invoke methods when things are using task.run used to be begin invoke. There's a pile of things that this person learned from their not so great experience and blogged about. So I thought this was interesting, and there's probably a lot of positive things that can come from it. So it's worth mentioning here. This was up on Reddit. I read this over the holidays. So yeah.
The only thing I would say about this is, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if anybody in chat's looking at migrating something like this, feel free to chime in, let us know. Like I said, we're getting ready to put together some content on some migration strategies, not necessarily this exact, web thing to .NET 6, but we're looking at stuff. So,
yeah. In defense of the .NET team, this is a rather big jump. This is jumping across not only one lily pad, but probably 4 at once. What this person is doing here to go from .NET 3 to ASP.NET Core 6 is a big jump. There's a lot of stuff that's changed. And typically, most companies today have a N-2 support policy, meaning if you're version 6, then we support version 6 minus 2, version 4 as our support strategy for non-breaking changes, hopefully. Now, that's not to say that that there aren't going to be breaking changes between version to version, but that seems to be the standard now. And I think that, if you lag behind far enough, obviously things are going to look drastically different, and there are going to be very good reasons why things changed. And there are things that get introduced as regressions sometimes, and then people take a dependency on that, and then you have to do a workaround for that for the next version. And so someone coming to this years before, they're going to see basically this carnage, this path that's been carved through the forest, and they're walking the trail and like, why didn't we just go straight that way? Why did we go over here and this convoluted path? I'm like, well, at the time when we were carving the path, it looked reasonable to go this direction, so we went that way, and then we turned right and then left, and then things kind of would look different, and so we had to adjust. And so I think those are some of the things I would say. If you are migrating from a very old framework, there is the potential to consider doing a rewrite from scratch. Now, it depends on your code base and your costs, etc. But I have been personally involved in projects where I remember a lot of people did this when they went from, say, VB6 to VB.NET. I remember working on a code base where we took it from 3.5 million lines of code down to about 600,000. And it was just stuff that we could just throw away because the .NET framework enabled us to do so. It just had a lot of functionality built in. And so at the end of the day, we probably should have just considered doing a build from scratch, because we were basically, as we were going through the process, it was kind of like, okay, this is useless, this is useless, this is useless. So yeah, just be aware that if you're gonna migrate up from an old version, it's going to take time.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out in here, I've kind of tried to highlight, but it's a little bit hard in the whole context of this. The framework or the CS proj files, I guess, the way the frameworks are specified and NuGet packages are imported and all of that has changed so drastically.
Yes,
those CS proj files look nothing at all like what they used to. So there's a bit of a parity issue trying to figure out how to migrate just those project files over. And a lot of stuff's been abstracted away, and it feels kind of magical on the newer.
A lot more convention is now used. Yes.
Yeah. So you might not have any type of one-to-one reference that you can copy and paste from your old assembly into the new one. And I think that's what threw this person off a little bit as well. It's like, there's no way to add this thing. And we used to add it one line at a time. And I've got this reference and I don't know what to do with it. And then they end up kind of explaining how they fixed it. So I think there's again, some benefit here. I did post the link in chat. Looked like folks were looking to read this as well. So I shared that in the chat room. As some of you may know, it's CES week. So CES is starting today.
They got the BlackBerries there?
Yeah.
See what I did?
The latest one. And a calculator that adds up to. It is CES week. And I didn't see a whole lot of impressive news yet. I think it's just starting today. It's the usual stuff. Huge TV was shown. We got a big new TV to look at. There's new cell phones out. But it did catch some things that were interesting from Intel and AMD. So Intel and AMD have seen the writing on the wall with the M1 processor, and they are now, this is what I like about competition, right? Because Intel especially has been guilty of this in the past, where they get, I don't want to say lazy, maybe that's kind of a derogatory way of putting it. They get comfortable. Good one, John.
Yes.
They get comfortable, and then kind of the CPU market sees a little bit of a plateau. And then somebody like AMD comes in and hits hard with a nice new processor. And then later, that was probably 15 years ago, Apple comes along and they drop a new processor. And here we are today. And Intel is back at it, trying to come up with a new processor to take on this brand new tech. So they're dropping a new processor soon that they dubbed the Intel Core i9 129HK. That's a snappy name you got there, guys. M1 is so hard to remember, but this sticks. Sorry, the sarcasm was a little thick there, maybe. Yeah, so this is their kind of performance per watt rating that they're giving this CPU, and they're valuing it above the M1 Max.
Just a side note, I've seen many of these charts, and they always do this, and I don't know why. But even Apple does this. When they announce a new CPU, they always draw these lines with like a feather brush, and they're like, here, this is where it goes, you know? And it's like, look, guys, you're using a scientific basis for drawing a chart with very specific numbers, and you're drawing lines with a feather paintbrush. Let's not do this.
There's a reason. There's a good reason for that, because nobody can hold you to something vague like this. So it's something that looks scientific. It's called marketing. It is not scientific, but they're claiming that basically at the 30 watt mark, they're able to take on the M1 Max. But if you do notice here, like the M1 starts down here at about 20 watts, where it's actually, this is probably like background tasks and things that it's doing, and it's able to kind of stay afloat at 20 watts. That same type of thing. I mean, it does say it's, faster. It's doing background tasks faster, but at a higher wattage.
What is that chart on the left? What does the y-axis even mean? Relative performance. Like that is such a vague term.
Yeah, relative to the task, maybe.
Relative to what? To what does the percentage mean? Now we're going beyond 100%. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
It's going into the
relative
future.
performance.
Into the
and the other thing is they're comparing to the current standard, which is the M1 Max. Apple hasn't even shipped the new CPUs for its power or its Pro line, basically.
Yeah.
So
they're trying to stay relevant, John. Give them a break.
Okay. Sorry. We didn't expect you with all your questions.
I know, right? Anyway, they're trying to leapfrog here a little bit. So they released this, and then of course AMD is hot on their heels, and they're like, hey, we have a new laptop chip here as well, and then they have their charts, graphs, all that good stuff. They didn't go with the swooshy like graph, but more this type of thing. I don't think they're doing direct comparisons either, but they're kind of comparing with their.
All I can think of is Steve Buscemi's character in 30 Rock walking up to all. How do you do, fellow children? How do you do, fellow kids? That's all I think about when I'm watching this, when I'm looking at this.
So
like, all right.
The takeaway here is they're aiming. If you look at this chart, especially, they're aiming at 15 watts as the low end. Mobile low end power. You're trying to work in a laptop or something small. You don't want to burn a lot of energy, and then this maxes out at 28 watts. And then the Intel charts were like 20 watts was their low, and then they went all the way up to this thing scales to desktop, I guess. I don't know. It went off the chart. But AMD looks like they've got a Ryzen 7 GPU that can go CPU that can go pretty low wattage wise and be very performant as well. They don't go through. They do compare it to Intel, but they don't go through the effort of trying to compare to the M1. But I'm sure they are targeting that same audience. I think AMD knows that Intel or Apple's not going to go out and buy their next generation GPU and put it in an Apple product. So they're not really worried about comparing apples to oranges, pun intended, to make this happen. They're more worried about Intel than they are Apple. So I think Apple might have been just more of the Intel chart might have been more of a, what do you call it? Retaliatory strike, because, I guess Apple still uses some Intel stuff as they're transitioning over to the M1 series processors. So Apple's probably or Intel's probably just kind of grasping at straws here, going, "Look, we can do this too."
Yep.
But so
Fair
new
enough.
stuff's coming. There's new CPUs coming and GPUs, and things will be faster in the future. Speaking of the future, John.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw this while we were away on.
No.
This actually says September, so it might have come up over some of the holidays here. Beethoven's unfinished 10th Symphony has been completed by artificial intelligence technology.
Okay.
So I guess the short version of this, the TLDR, which I did read this, by the way. Oh yeah, sorry, circling back to a comment here. Did you see Steve Buscemi did dress up as his character for Halloween last year? That was so awesome. But anyway, Beethoven's 10th Symphony, I guess he partially completed it. So there were some pages of this in his possession when he passed. He was in the middle of writing it, but did not finish it. So they scanned these documents using AI, and they coupled this with a whole lot of other pieces of data. So they took other music that Beethoven would have been influenced with during the same time period that he would have been writing the 10th Symphony. And they took, popular composers from that era and put their music sheets through this algorithm as well. They fed it, all sorts of different influences that he would have been exposed to. And then the machine learning kicked in and spit out several options for the completed 10th Symphony. And then they gave that to expert musicians and had them decide which of those, I don't know how many there were, but which of them looked like the most probable, symphony solution, I guess. So, these great minds got together and decided, this would be the most legitimate sounding piece of work that would have came out of Beethoven, and they finished it and then they played it. So I thought that was pretty cool. They said this wasn't so much as the computer trying to be creative as it was a tool for actual musicians to use to create something from an old piece of work. I thought,
okay,
hey, why not? That's pretty cool. They took this unfinished piece of work and completed it with some guidance using new technology.
But as we know, as we've seen with GitHub Copilot rather, sometimes the finished work can resemble interesting outcomes.
Yeah, I think that's why they had the experts there. Like you've got the developer sitting at the other end of Copilot to make sure everything.
They're probably just sitting there like, yeah, it compiles. Yeah, I guess it works.
This was speaking of new and futuristic things. I still haven't quite gotten into this yet. This was released on Steam. It is a concept which is a volumetric movie. I think what the concept here is, let's see if we can get this to play. It's going to play without audio for you all. Let me mute it for myself. You strap on your VR headset, and then you can witness the movie from basically any angle.
Like an actor. Yeah.
So you're kind of watching the movie as a director would maybe. You can kind of zoom in as you see fit, watch the fight up close, feel like you're really there in the action, because it's all 3D computer animated. I mean, it's basically a video game playing a script, and you're in that 3D environment with your headset, able to watch it and see the story being told. I hadn't tried it in person. I don't think there was a free version of it. I wasn't willing to fork out the money to try it.
This is no different than watching like game replays with a free floating VR, or not a free floating VR, but a free floating camera in games like Halo and Quake and Call of Duty and all these sort of things. So
Yeah.
but they're just
It's a
bringing
little
it to
more
movies now,
artsy
which
than
is
that,
fun.
but
Yeah, a little
yeah,
bit. Yeah.
it sounds interesting, and maybe I don't know if that's really the future though. I think people want that that story being told
I
and
want to sit
given
in
a
this big lazy
perspective.
boy like device and just stuff popcorn into my face. I don't want to be able, I don't want to do this. As soon as I do this, this is too much work for me.
Did I talk about it on the show before, John? About the CEO of Roku. I think you and him would be great friends. Like
Okay.
he seems like your kind of guy, which I agree with him too. So maybe that's why we're friends. But he was talking about, and this was like on Bloomberg or some, one of the big business, TV shows,
Uh-huh.
and they were talking to him about the Roku and why it's so successful, and what's the next whiz bang future thing it's going to do. And he's like, it's not, you just press buttons and it's TV. He's like, that's what
Yes.
people want. He's like, they don't want to talk to it.
No.
They don't want to, they don't want it
Nope.
to be Alexa. They
Nope.
want to press a button and watch
Yes.
TV. And that's what the
And go to
Roku
sleep.
does. You
Yes.
press a button and it's TV. It was so straightforward, and it's like, oh yeah, duh. It's like people just
Yeah.
want to relax.
It's
front
all
of the
about
screen.
people trying to invent a better
Yeah.
mousetrap. We don't need to do this, folks. The reason why these things are popular is because they are designed in a way that people want. That's why they're
Yeah.
popular. So the second you try and change that, this is why smart TVs never really took off. Like that's the thing, that the one feature I wish they would take away from TVs is the smart TV feature, because you're paying for it whether you like it or not. You get these devices, these TV devices, these Samsungs and LGs and all these sort of devices that come with this crappy firmware that comes into a TV. Some of which, by the way, actually spies on you while you're watching the TV. Thank you very much. And it's like, okay, thanks, but no, I don't want to use this. That's fine. I don't need to have built-in YouTube or built-in a browser, some crappy browser built into my TV. I just want to watch TV. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll have to look this interview up. I think I found it, but I'll have to check it in my spare time here and see if this is the one. It says CEO joins Squawk Alley, which is the show on CNBC.
Oh yeah, love those.
To
love
discuss,
those guys. Not
discuss earnings and growth, and he goes on he goes so sidetracked on like how they just are a remote with buttons on it, and it's.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there the whole time going, when did John start working for Roku?
Yeah,
but I also have Rokus in my house. Like that's what we use, and I'm like, this is exactly why I buy it. Though he's not wrong.
These technologies are like the Homer. There's a very famous episode of The Simpsons where Homer's brother comes back and reconnects with Homer. Can't remember the brother's name, and he owns a car company, and he asks Homer to design a car for the average man, and they design this car that's like this monstrosity that is like $84,000, and it's like everything and anything. And I see this all the time with gardening devices or with power tools, or it's like, listen, you should get the best whatever thing it is, and that's all you need. You don't need much more than that, because you're going to do everything with that one thing. But don't get the all-in-one bells and whistles thing, because it's not going to do everything you want, and it's not going to do the one thing you want to do well, and it's going to do everything else poorly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but that is very much true. Like we have, like every room in this house that has TV is a Roku TV, because it's just like the easiest thing. We've had other stuff.
Yep.
We don't like it. You just want to sit down and press a button and watch the thing. Yes. You don't want to sit there and fiddle with it for 10 minutes.
It has to be fast. Yeah, just make it fast, make it instant, make it a seamless experience. Don't worry about new features. If I want new features, I'll get a new device, or I'll live without it and I'll be fine. But it's the second I want one thing to work really, really well. Like do that one thing, please, really, really, really well, and I'll be happy.
The one that's been burning us recently is the interactive commercial. It's like you can interact with this commercial for 30 seconds, or you can watch 3 minutes of commercials. And we're always like, just show me the 3 minutes of commercials. I don't want to go find the remote and then click around an ad. Just show me the commercial and get it over with already.
Yeah.
We're always like, oh, now I got to find the remote and forward through this thing.
That's evil. Anyhow, I don't like that. That's really bad.
I don't either. And to end the show properly, I have to
Okay.
get you kind of flustered about something, John. So this was a pretty good meme for the show.
All right, here we go.
2021.
Let's do it.
So we need to show John something that he's going to cringe when he sees. Now, I know how big of a fan you are.
Is this person lying down? Is this person lying down here? I can already tell what this is. This is so stupid. I'm not even seeing the video. This guy's on a massage table of some stupid thing, and they're flying around, aren't they? Is that what this is? If you show me this, I'm gonna be really upset.
How did you guess this?
I can tell. Look where his hand is. Look, his shoulder's right there. This is such a stupid. Oh God. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? This is so.
I know you want to try this, John. I know you want to be a bird.
We have solutions for this. Go get a hang glider. Go jump off a cliff. Jeez, why are we doing this? Oh God.
So you can feel
wee.
You can feel like you're flying in first person. I would look at the cardio involved here. It's got to be good for your
cardio.
health.
Causing the machine to tilt and swivel. Oh geez. Someone actually greenlit this idea. They all sat in a boardroom meeting and they were like, "Yeah, you feeling what I'm feeling? Yeah, let's do it. You know, this is it. This is what people want." Oh man.
I know you're excited and you're going to go place your order after the show.
Yes, totally.
So I should probably
Who did this?
Let you go.
Who made this thing?
Oh
God, don't even tell me. I don't want to know.
I don't.
This is so stupid. This is the stupidest thing. When
understatement.
Thousands of years, thousands of years from now, when the aliens take over or whatever, and they do the archaeological dig on the history of the humans, they'll be like, yeah, this is where they kind of lost their way, like building stuff like they forget climate change, forget poverty, forget whatever other problems that are plaguing the planet. This is what we've got to focus our attention on. It's like, oh man, all right, whatever. Yeah,
Jurassic Flight. You don't want to fly around like a pterodactyl.
Yeah.
Come on. I don't know if you saw the background.
We've got this obesity epidemic plaguing every Western country, and we're getting people to lie in a comfortable spot that will burn as few calories as possible. I don't even think people will do this. They'll be like, that looks like a lot of effort to me. Lying down and moving my arms.
Jurassic Flight. I wasn't making that up when I did see it. Said Jurassic Flight. You fly with the dinosaurs.
So this looks so bad. Oh God.
Someone made terrible.
Someone made. Look at that fan. That fan does nothing. The fan just is like on a single speed. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's variable. But this is so. Why do we do this? Sorry. It
was presented by AOL. That's all I can say.
Sorry, that was quite funny. I could tell what it was, and then you showed me, and then there's the guy who's like, I'm like, yeah, perfect.
I don't know how
That's what we need.
I don't know how you jumped to that conclusion from the little bit of screen grab that was up there.
Because I've been in tech for so long, and I've seen enough bad ideas that I know exactly where this is going. Like, no. I'm like Quint from Jaws when he's like about to land into the shark's mouth. I'm like, no.
That's the perfect way to end a show, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Really appreciate that. Perfect.
John's gonna go through the rest of his day just
I'm gonna go throw up now. Just like, why are we doing all those devices? They probably built thousands. I don't know if they'll be successful or not, but if they end up being successful, that thing will be hot for about 5 years, and then they'll all end up in the ocean. All those plastic metal contraptions. I mean, they have.
John.
Look, we have wingsuits. We have paragliding. We have hang gliding. We have these things. You can launch yourself off a boat in the Bahamas and fly around in a parachute being tow lined. We have this. We don't need a virtual experience. Go on a holiday. For the same price you're going to pay for that thing. You can buy a first class ticket down to the Bahamas and do a paragliding probably all day and see everything you'd ever want. But no, I got to do this in my office. So.
So
People are making
John's
like
wife is probably like, why is John always like upset
yelling,
on
yelling
Wednesdays?
at it.
Like
Yeah.
his
Yes, I
Wednesdays,
know.
he really hates hump day. It's like because I set him in a bad mood in the morning.
No, I'm not. I'm
'Cause
not.
it's-
I'm not upset. I'm just. I know. Look, people have to understand the reason why I'm passionate about these things is because I know we have a lot of smart people out there, and we have a lot of big problems that we could tackle. You know, the UN talks about its 100 top millennium goals or 360. Those aren't goals. That's a wish list, by the way. But they talk about these goals of eliminating tuberculosis and poverty and climate change and, you know, the COVID crisis, etc. Like all these things that we could spend time on. But no, I have to do this from inside my office. It's like, let's get smart people working on hard problems. Like let's go. Like we don't have time to waste, you know. Like that's why, you know, as much as, you know, people have a variety of opinions on things like, you know, Elon Musk and stuff, but at least the guy's trying. I mean, he's creating electric cars and he's, you know, don't and he's trying to get us to Mars. But no, the Birdly VR flying simulator is what we need. That's what we've been missing this whole time as a species. So sorry, I know that I'm being a curmudgeon. I know that, you know, yeah.
I mean, there was a very specific reason I brought this to the show, John.
Yes,
It
I know.
wasn't
Thank
because
you.
I thought
Thank
it
you.
was cool. I just wanted your unfiltered response to. I mean, I pulled this up on my Twitter feed and I just started dying laughing because this is a guy like flapping his arms on a like you said, massage table. It's absurd.
Yeah,
and
and
yeah,
like
somebody spent money developing this, and someone. Maybe this is one of those things where like the person's mother is like filthy rich or something, and they didn't have the heart to tell their kid no. It's like, sure, honey, go develop it. Here's $1 million.
yeah.
Make the
Look,
flying
don't get me
table.
wrong. It's look, these things are fine. They're gonna like look. If we invent the flying spacesuit, then yeah, you need training programs and things like that. But this is purely for entertainment purposes, and I think it's
for
a
entertainment, all right.
misprioritization. Yeah, I think it's
This
a
tweet-
misprioritization.
Sharing this tweet on the show is for entertainment purposes.
Yes.
Uh,
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Let's all have a good week. This is our first week back. I know shows are starting up again, so we will see you here on Code It Live. I'm also going to jump over to Layla Codes It's channel. I don't know if she's going to be on her channel or her. She has 2 channels now. I'm going to be on one of those. We're going to talk some Blazor this week. Tomorrow on Eat Sleep Code, Sam Basu and I are going to take my Mac Mini M1 for a test drive. See how to get that linked up to the latest Blazor and Maui things.
Maybe you can create some artsy charts and graphs while you're at it.
Yeah, maybe I'll see if there's a bird simulator that works on the M1. I've got the VR headset. Who knows? I'll lay on my office chair and spin it in a circle while I watch videos.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, stay tuned, and we'll see you this year. Happy 2020, folks. Bye.
2020, 2022. That's right.
Yeah, 2022. Also,
that doesn't roll off the tongue, eh? That's the first time I've said it this year. 2022.
Yep.